Get in, bitches, we're going back to school. Hi, I'm author Elizabeth C. Cabrera, and I decided to do a 75 Hard for Authors challenge. If you have clicked on this video, you have read the title right. I am quitting, quote unquote, the 75 Author Hard challenge, but technically not. Technically not. But I am. But I'm not. But okay. So what all that means is basically I signed up for more than I thought I was, but not in the sense that you're thinking. I signed myself up for something that ended up turning into a chore. As somebody who already has, as an adult, I already have enough chores. I already have enough things going on. I didn't need another chore to like begrudgingly check off. That wasn't the point. That was not even remotely within the same stratosphere as what I wanted when I started to do this challenge. I loved how motivated I was when I did the writing 10K in 2 days challenge. I loved that, but that was only 2 days. So I only had to really focus my time for 2 days. I set the time aside. I, got everything set up so that all of my focus was for that. When I set up the 75 Hard for Authors challenge, I didn't do that. I was like, oh, during the week, if I can get these things done, great. Otherwise, whatever. Obviously, that's not going to lead to very good results. And last week, I think I underplayed it just a little bit of just how poorly I did on my own challenge, which was after looking at the word count, I was under the 5K maximum. So I did not do 30 minutes of activity per day. I failed at my own challenge. So not exactly the way you want to open your week up when you're trying to actually do a challenge in front of a bunch of people, but not exactly setting a great track record. So yes, technically I am quitting, but we're making some changes. And as you saw from the title, when you clicked on it, it is called the author curriculum, and we're going back to school. So let me explain what exactly that means. When I was filming for the last week's update for 75 Hard, I was in a really big rut because I was already failing. I was already burning myself out, which was the opposite of what I needed to do, which was to burn myself out. So I was scrolling on TikTok at like 11 o'clock at night, as one does, and I came across a video. And if you're on TikTok, if you know how that algorithm works, you see one video pop up and you watch it longer than a few seconds, you're going to get a continual stream of them, one after the other. And I got this video it's called the personal curriculum. Interesting sounding. So I paid attention. I was like, okay, what does this mean? So let me preface, all the credit to the creator of this particular trend that popped up, Elizabeth Jean. I will put her information down in the description. And I believe she recently stated that she started her own YouTube channel, which if I find that will also be down there. But all the credit to her for this challenge. Basically, what I did was I turned that into an author curriculum. So let me explain what that means. So when I saw these videos pop up, the personal curriculum came up, and I'm like, what the hell is that? What does that even mean? So basically what people have been doing, and again, it varies from person to person, which makes it a lot easier to tailor it to your own needs or your own desires or whatnot. Basically what people would do is, if they had an interest in something, if they had something they really, really wanted to do, like, for example, and this will pop up in later parts of this video, but for example, because I am an author, I am on the book talk side of the internet, I was getting a lot of these personal curriculums where people were like, I really want to read more classic literature. Like, that's just, I've always wanted to do it. I really want to get onto it. So they would make a personal curriculum. So they would, depending on what time frame they wanted, either a month or they would do like a semester. So from like September to December, they would be like, okay, well, I'm going to take a classic literature course. And the classic literature course is basically, they had, X number of classic books they wanted to read by the end of the semester. And then if they wanted to, they made like their own little activities. And that depended on, their schedules and all that kind of stuff. But not even just that, a lot of people would, for hobbies and that kind of thing, or if they had very niche interests that they wanted to do. Like, I saw a couple of people who just really wanted to learn more about certain aspects of history, like American history or Russian history, like just all these other different things that were interesting to them. And it was interesting in the aspect that, like, when you think of going to school, especially when you're younger, when you think of going to school, you're like, oh, I've got to do all these assignments and oh, it's this and I got to take an exam. There was not really any of that, unless you really wanted to, I guess. But most of them is just, you have some tasks that you want to get done and you do it at your own pace during the semester that you set up for yourself. And that rang a bell with me because I loved going to school. in the aspect of like learning, I should say. I have a degree in biology, if you don't know that, which you might have seen the degree hanging somewhere on my shelf or on my wall. I have a degree in biology, which obviously I don't use that these days. I loved learning. I was not very good at the biology. I was forcing one of those things of when you're younger, you think you know what you want to do and what you think you should do, if that makes sense. So like I thought I was going to be I'm going to be honest with you. I thought I was going to be like a doctor or a physical therapist or something like that, and I hated being in a hospital. I hated working in a hospital, and that's a story for a different day. I loved learning. I loved going to school, and I love that whole back to school vibe. Like I loved all of that. So when I saw this challenge pop up on my page and I started looking at it and I started scrolling and seeing more and more and how people were setting them up and how people were doing their courses and what kinds of courses they were doing, I sat back and I was like, this is the vibe. This is the vibe. What I want. This is what I need, is to make this fun. Because as I said before, I had turned what was supposed to be something fun into a chore. And instead of enjoying the process and actually pushing myself to make those goals, I was begrudgingly trying to check things off. And again, I didn't even check some of them off. I basically just kind of was like, meh, I did the best I could this week. And again, it is what it is. I saw all of this and I'm like, I am ready. I'm ready. I want to go back to school. I want to do this. So when I saw all this, and again, Elizabeth Jean's content came up as well, and she was explaining like why she started doing this and all that, I was like, okay, if I could take what I had originally set myself up for with my goals for 75 Hard and turn them into a curriculum or courses for myself, that would make it more fun. It would add some more structure instead of just like a generic, like read, 10 minutes a day. It set a little bit more of a vibe. So I was like, okay, let me sit down and let me come up with something. So sat down and I did hours of looking into things and figuring out how I would want to structure this for myself. And I have come up with what I am now calling my author curriculum for this semester. So with all that said, what courses am I going to take this semester, you're wondering? And how am I going to incorporate what I had already been doing for my goals for 75 Hard into these courses? Well, I'm so glad that you asked, because I have a whole little presentation that I'm going to be taking you guys on for this whole thing. So buckle up and let's go. The courses that I will be taking this semester are creative writing, obvious one, editing and proofreading, another obvious one. I am going to do a classic literature course because I wanted to, and I have a book club that I've been doing with some friends of mine where we have been doing this already, and I really wanted to make the push where I'm actually reading these things instead of just letting them sit and rot. So, classic literature. Health and wellness, another obvious one. Communications, which will be, I've mentioned this before, of I'm trying to learn how to market better, and I'm trying to learn SEO and all that kind of stuff. So we're going to learn some communication stuff. And then for my fun one, I'm going to be doing some sculpting with clay. So those are the official courses that I have for this semester. I'm going to minimize myself so that I'm on screen, but you can actually see the little graphics I've made because I am that extra when it comes to school stuff. I love this. I love it. So I made myself a little syllabus. I made myself little calendars. I made myself little weekly to-do lists. So let's explore, and I'll talk to you a little bit more about what I'm going to be doing and exactly how I'm incorporating my previous goals into these courses. So the first one up is the creative writing course. This is an advanced creative writing because I'm already writing books. So like, hopefully I'm not in a 101 course, but basically for this one, because my original goal was to work on like write whatever it was, 1,000 words a day or 5K words a week for Project DDD. My goal for this course, for this creative writing course, is that I would like to complete Project DDD by the end of this semester, which the end of the semester is December 31st. So a traditional United States, I should say, schedule for classes and that kind of thing. It usually starts in August, depending on where you go. But because we're in September, I'm going to be doing September to December. So for this, I would like to complete the first draft of Project DDD. And additionally, as kind of like an optional thing I would like to do is I've had this copy of On Writing by Stephen King forever. I have wanted to read it. I have started I don't know if you can see the thing. I have barely started it, but I would love to read that during this and kind of get a little bit more of the writing craft side of things from his perspective. Because if you know Stephen King, which I mean, unless you've been living under a rock, you know who that man is. And I would love if I could ever get to his prowess of writing, which is like popping these puppies out like, a couple books a year. Any kind of advice he has for me for learning the craft of writing, I will take. So for the creative writing course, that is my goals. This is my syllabus for this course. So let's move on to the next course. This is one where another obvious one, but editing, proofreading. This is one I didn't really incorporate into the other goals that I had. It was more focusing on getting Project DDD written, but obviously that's not the only project I'm working on, which the other one is Twisting Fates, which if you've watched any of my other videos, I'll plug the playlist for it up there somewhere. This has been an ongoing project that I've been working on, and I wanted to incorporate a course for that because I don't want to just let it sit forever because I would like to publish it. So my goal for this course, the syllabus, is basically to have this book done and ready to go into the publishing phase by the end of this semester. This is a little bit of an ambitious one, I know, but I've already gotten some big picture stuff noted. It's basically going to be copy editing, doing some, I should say, reverse that, developmental editing first, then I'll be moving into the copy editing, proofreading, all of that kind of stuff. And I will be working with a copy editor / proofreader at some point during this process. So obviously that's going to contribute a little bit to how this course is going to go for me, because obviously I am at their whim and their schedule as well. So we will see how that aspect goes, and I'll have to plan around that. But for now, that is the goal, is that I will have this book ready for publishing by the end of this semester. Additionally, I would love if I could do a more thorough review of the dialogue thesaurus, which I love this little thing. I have been going through it. When I first, side tangent real quick, when I'm drafting the first draft of a book, what I've found so far is I'm trying to get the story on the page. I'm trying to get the thoughts in my head onto the page. And then once it's onto the page, then I start tailoring it down to the more fine tuning of the language and the verbiage and how things sound and that kind of thing. And this for editing has been already a godsend. I love this little thing so far. It sounds very simple, very basic, but when you're writing and you're editing and you have so much that you can, or so many ways that you can tag things, and you can, she said, he said, she exclaimed, he exclaimed kind of thing. Having something like this has been very helpful for me, because then I can be like, okay, let me look up the emotion. Like, I think it's set up around a moment, please. Yeah, it's, you've got the dialogue and the action tags, the adverbs, they have them by emotions and dynamics, the mannerisms, feelings, physical states, that kind of thing. So it's broken up into different ways of dialogue and action tags and, all of that. So having this has been very helpful for me. I love this thing. So that is something I'm adding to the optional reading for this course, is that I would like to have a more thorough, because obviously when you're quick referencing something as you're editing, you're just kind of picking and choosing what exactly you're looking for. But I would love if I could get to a point where I'm much more familiar with this, and I can just be like, okay, I need to go to this page, or I know this is the section I need to look for this particular thing. So I would love to have this also read. Again, this one's optional. This is because of how ambitious this particular course is going to be for me in terms of getting a book ready to publish by the end of it. That is the most optional of every optional thing I'm going to be doing for all of my courses. That is for the editing and proofreading course. So let's move on to our next one. Yes, as I mentioned in the examples for all of this challenge and all of the curriculum stuff, yes, I will be doing my own classic literature course. As I've stated, I have some friends that I've been doing kind of our own little challenge where we have been wanting to go back and read classics that we've never read, or, reviewing books we have read back in school and that kind of thing. And I've been mostly good at it. Mostly. There was one or two that I just never really got into. But for this one, we had just done The Princess Bride, which you saw in the last video I did. And the next book, we did that one for a reason because it's shorter. It's like, I think the audiobook is like an hour or something like that. So it's pretty short. It's very short. The next book was the most ambitious one, though, is we are reading The Count of Monte Cristo. If you have seen the word count or the page amount for this, you know how ambitious this is because it is over 1,000 pages. It is a very long, dense book. So for my course, I want to read the entirety of Monte Cristo. And additionally, if I have time, which again, based on all the other courses, who knows if I have time, but if I do, I would like to read 2 other classes outside of my friend group challenge, which is For Whom the Bell Tolls by Ernest Hemingway and 1984 by George Orwell. I started 1984 not too terribly long ago. Hi, Luna. I started that book not too terribly long ago, and I had to put it down because I got too busy to finish it. But I really want to finish it and get that read as well. So if I were to do a priority list, it would be 1984 and then For Whom the Bell Tolls, mostly also because these 2 in particular I have physical copies of. So for the classic literature course for this semester for myself, I will be reading the entirety of Count of Monte Cristo. So that is this course. Let's move on to the next one. This one is going to be my health and wellness class, which a much broader of a term for this one. And this is one where I'm going to be much more experimenting with how I do things because I want to have something that incorporates all aspects of what I had previously done for the 75 hard, which was 30 minutes of movement a day, plenty of water, all of that kind of jazz. So throughout the course of this particular course that I'm going to be doing for myself, I would love to just have a better grip on my overall health because obviously that's part of the challenge that I did before of wanting to make sure that I'm not ignoring that and that I'm taking better care of myself because I have the vulnerable moment here. I have the worst time taking care of myself. And I had a whole breakthrough with my therapist once where I was like, it's harder to take care of somebody that you don't really like. And yes, I know how that sounds. Vulnerability, all that kind of jazz. I have a hard time because I don't always, I mean, if you have any dealings with depression, issues with your mental health or self-esteem, it's not always easy to love yourself. It's not always easy to look at yourself and be like, I am the bomb.com. Everything is great. I love everything about myself. I wouldn't change a thing. Not realistic. I am 33, almost 34. I'll be 34 next month. And I still struggle with that all of the time, and especially because my body has changed as I've gotten older. I used to be, thin, what you would, I guess, consider conventionally attractive. And my body has changed as I've gotten older. I put on some weight. My weight has been an impossible thing to deal with, especially as I've gotten older, as my metabolism has changed and all of that. And it's become a lot easier because of all of those changes that my body has gone through to just not like how I look and not like myself and aspects of myself that cropped up because of those issues. So this all-encompassing course is just kind of like a baby step, so to speak, in trying to reclaim some aspects of that of myself, of just taking better care of myself, paying more attention to what my body actually wants, what my body actually needs, and giving it what it wants and what it needs and getting out of my comfort zone. Because again, part of the other aspect of my previous 75 author challenge was getting out of the house more. So part of that is also going to be going for more walks, going for, exercise classes and that kind of thing, and just getting out and being around people. So all encompassing. This one's a little bit harder to do like exact models of I have to do this, I have to do that for course objectives. Like what I have listed here is like more generic stuff, but for the actual course itself, what I would like to have done by the end of the semester is just have a better routine for myself in terms of taking care of myself and my overall wellness, having some sort of structure around that of, again, taking care of myself, as I will repeat repeatedly, having that done by the end of this semester. So I'm going to leave this vulnerable moment here and we're going to move on. So here we go. So next course is for communications. The communications is going to be my hands-on-ish. Like, again, health and wellness is hands-on too, but this one's hands-on in the aspect of like, I will be publishing things and putting things out and a lot more, I guess if you wanted to say I have more like tasks that are more public facing, this would be it. because obviously like you guys would see it or other people I know would see it. And I wanted to go through this because as I've mentioned, I want to learn more about marketing. I want to learn more about SEO, all of those kind of aspects of being on the internet these days, because I am an indie author, and that is, as much as we would like to pretend that it's not important, it is important because, as I've mentioned to my husband, as I've told some of my friends, as much as I would love for me to put out a book and immediately just, bestseller, everybody loves it, haha, that's not going to happen because nobody knows that it exists. And if nobody knows it exists, nobody's going to pick it up and read it. So marketing is kind of an eventuality of all authors. I know, trust me, I'm a hold your hand when I tell you this. I know I hate it too. I hate it just as much as you do, but it is important for getting our stuff out there. So as part of this curriculum, I thought if I could get better at figuring things out, because I am a type A person and I'm very much, and again, why this whole curriculum thing interested me is I like to have a list. I like to have my little checkoffs. Yes, it didn't work quite as well as I'd wanted to for the original 75 hard, but I work very well when I have like things broken down into manageable tasks, and having a list of things of like, okay, here's what you need to do for this platform, here's what you need to do for this platform, so on and so forth, I feel is going to be very helpful for my kind of way of dealing with things. So I would like to not necessarily like, I want to improve my follower count by blah, 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 blah. Yes, that would be great, but I like to know the numbers, and numbers make sense to me. I know that sounds weird maybe, but those kind of things make sense to me, whereas like, oh, this trend and this trend don't necessarily make sense to me. If during this course I'm able to get a better grip on how I should be. Because I think the other part of this, and I guess ties a little bit into the health and wellness, is I haven't really figured myself out on the internet yet. I'm getting there. It's a work in progress. I know how I am in person, but like being on the internet is a completely different thing. So I would love to more content, more variety of content, move out of the more, because I've been in kind of like the experimentation phase of being on the internet, of like just putting things out and hoping it works and hoping something sticks. So I'd love to have more of a like concrete plan for myself. And again, there will still be some experimentation with that, but like to have something a little bit more concrete that I can work with would be fantastic. So ideally that means I'm going to be posting more often on certain platforms that I'm going to be trying to focus on based on audits, which that's the thing that I'm working on this week. And I'll explain more in that particular area, but getting those things out, publishing them, and then seeing how they do. So for this course, my overall goal is just to see how I can more tailor my social platforms to me and how to target the people I actually want to see, because I don't want to see Jim Bob on here who doesn't want to be here at all, but somehow ended up here, and he's kind of begrudgingly here, and then he's, mean and nasty in the comments. I don't want as much, hello, Jim Bob, you're great. I'm sure you're a wonderful guy, but like, if you don't want to be here, please don't be here. So I would love to tailor to people who actually want to be here. So if you're here and you actually want to be here, welcome. I hope you're enjoying your time here with me, with my absolute chaos. But all that to say, we are doing this course to grow and to learn how to function on the internet. So moving on. And my last one, which I've kind of touched on a little bit before, but sculpting with clay 101. I've recently gotten into making little polymer clay stuff, which part of it is for hobby, part of it is for a purpose, which I will touch on more later, but I really enjoy it. And I think of all of this, like, again, I tried to make my little course load for this semester towards what my original goals were and kind of incorporating a little bit more around those. And I left one space open so that I had 6 courses, because I like having even numbers. So I had the 6th spot open basically. So I was like, I would love to do something that's a little bit more fun, kind of like with some of the other people who've been doing this with the personal curriculum, of having like, fun things that they're doing, fun courses that they're taking for themselves. So I wanted to incorporate one of those for this. So for me, it's going to be doing sculpting with clay. And I would love at the end of this course if I can get a new keychain design, which again, yes, that's for the practical use of this, because I thought it would just be so cute if I could get like a keychain that goes with my books when I publish them. I just thought that would be the cutest thing, even if it's only me who uses it. I love that kind of stuff. I love little, trinkets like that, keep them all around my house. So I would love to have that, like something designed for that purpose by the end of this course. But my overall goal is just to have fun. And explore this different medium of being creative, because as an author, as a writer, you don't really necessarily think of yourself as like an artist, but it's kind of like a big catch-all bucket that we don't really necessarily think about, but we should. Because, excuse me, Luna, you were just an absolute mess today. You were spicy. Come here, angel cake. Come here, angel cake. I know. I know mommy's being mean to you and you just want to run around. So we don't necessarily think of ourselves as like artists or anything like that, but we kind of are in our own way. And I wanted to explore that more artistic, creative side of myself. So for this semester, I'm going to do the polymer clay. In the future, I might do something else and incorporate another creative thing I want to try out. So those are the courses that I will be doing for this semester. All right, and now with my handy dandy pointer, let's go over the first week of tasks that I have set for myself. So as part of my course curriculum, every week I'm going to have a to-do list, and I'm when I'm telling you that I am a type A person and I went hard on putting this together. I already have everything planned from now until December. I already got a plan. It's already on the schedule, and obviously it's not set in stone, but like idealistically I have everything set from now until the end of December when this whole thing ends. So every week I'm going to have tasks per course that I would like to have done by the end of the week. So Sunday is when I would like to have all of this done. So for my weekly author schedule, basically what I used to do, and I was a little bit more vigilant about maintaining this schedule, but I kind of got a little bit lax as time went on. So I have basically put what I used to do on this like weekly schedule in terms of like just like general author related like bucket tasks, what days I generally try to do them on, and all that kind of stuff. So as you can see, the schedule is not concrete. It is flexible as needed because, again, full-time stuff. And I will be utilizing things like the Pomodoro timer method, because one thing that I've discovered is if I have a bunch of tasks that I need to get done, I overthink everything. I overthink everything, and then I end up getting overwhelmed, and I end up not doing certain things because I forget about them, or all that kind of stuff. So having methods to help me focus and like really push to do a specific task. So for the writing in particular is where the Pomodoro is going to come in, because once I set the timer, that is all I'm doing. That is the only thing I'm allowed to do during that time period. So things like that I feel are going to help me with achieving an actual like writing goal. I did it for the 10K challenge, which again, should have listened to my intuition on that of continuing that particular thing. So I'm going to be utilizing stuff like that. Schedule's going to be flexible. So Mondays are writing days. Tuesdays are social media planning and scheduling and all that kind of stuff. So I will create some of the more, like the Instagram post kind of stuff where I don't have to film anything and I can kind of be a little bit more flexible with it. That's on Tuesdays. So Wednesdays is a writing day I put on here, but Wednesday is more of the Wednesday/editing. So whatever of the two, depending on how Monday goes with writing, it's going to be dependent on what all I need to get done for that week for editing. So again, because I will be editing an entire book basically during this course thing for the editing and proofreading class, that may take priority on Wednesdays depending on how long I take basically for editing. So that one is basically like a slash kind of day. Thursdays is going to be purely editing, so only editing on that day. Friday is more of the admin tasks, so other things I have to get done for being an indie author, and then any spillover. So if I finish with all my admin stuff, then whatever is still left over to do for author stuff, I do it then. And then obviously filming and editing is done on the weekends. Primarily, I usually do it on Saturdays, but I kind of switch Saturday and Sunday depending on what needs to be done, basically. So I realized that the section for this particular course that I am doing is barren this week for the reason that I've already technically completed this aspect because I've already gone through and done my notes and my note taking, and I've already done all that part. I put that into the schedule for a reason because I knew some of the other courses were going to be a little bit heavier, intensive of setting everything up for the first week. So I purposefully put that here, even though obviously I've already done that. So doing the entirety of that, though, in a week would have been daunting, to say the least. Howsoever, because I've already done it, this section is basically just me prepping for next week of what I need to do for my to-do list for the week. And that is going to be actually starting the revisions for Twisting Fates. Now, some general notes that I have taken along the way of my read through. I've tried my best, and anybody who has written a book or has edited a book or any such thing will tell you that despite your best intentions of going in and saying that you're not going to check for grammar or line edits or anything like that, you're going to do it. You're going to do it. You're not going to feel bad about it because I just did that and I'm not going to feel bad about it. I refuse to feel bad about it because that's just how my brain works. If I see something incorrect, it automatically wants to fix it. So yes, I did some light note taking for edits and that kind of thing. However, the majority of the notes that I took on my little paper here is for story edits. So going into next week's course for the to-do list, it's going to be a full week of actually editing it, which I believe I've set it to be 5 chapters that I have to fully edit by the end of the week. So yeah, we have that to look forward to. But I wanted to put that note here that this week, this section of the course load is barren because of the way I set things up, to make sure that some of the tasks, because at least the social media communication stuff was a lot more intensive because it was a lot of like auditing and that kind of thing. So that took more time. And then, yeah, so getting everything set up for the semester, it took a while. So that's why this section's a little bit barren. So moving on. Hello. I am a little rough for wear today, but I am got my hair up because I'm going to the gym right now for my personal training. My husband wasn't able to come. We usually do like a couples personal training session, so she does both of us at the same time, but he's stuck on a work call today, so I get to have a session all to myself today. So wish me luck that she doesn't completely kick my butt. She did not, in fact. Take it easy on me. Whew. That is how my week has been so far. Entertaining, to say the least. I'm going to say I'm having an absolute blast doing this author curriculum. It has been so much fun. It has reignited this like motivation / just overall having fun vibe that I've been really searching for. So it has been exactly what I needed to like kickstart this challenge for myself. I'm definitely going to continue on, obviously. I am not going to give up on this one. You're going to hold me accountable, right? You're going to help me out, right? Okay, good. Because I'm going to need it at certain points when my motivation goes back down under, and especially when I have weeks like the week that I have coming up where the more intensive of like the editing stuff is going to start kicking in. So I'm going to need the help. It's going to be fun. I'm already starting to plan out what I want to do for next semester, which will be in January, but I'm trying not to get too ahead of myself, but that's how much fun I've been having with this. Like, I need you to understand just how much fun I've been having with this. That is it for today's video. If you would like to comment and subscribe, that would be fantastic. It would be really helpful for me moving forward towards my own goals if you would subscribe, like, comment, all that kind of stuff. So otherwise, I will see you guys again in next week's video. Have a good one.